when Iori challenged our teams as an unexpected mid-boss, with his hunchback, beastly roar, and the unsettling sound of heartbeats in the background. That was the first time we got to deal with the Riot of the Blood. It didn't come out of nowhere though. The series was hinting at it in past games and building towards its spectacular display in '97. But what do we know exactly about it? How does it affect the people who suffer from it? And is there a way to get rid of it? In this video, we'll answer these questions and many more. The first part is dedicated to defining what is exactly the Riot of the Blood. The second part is a detailed chronological narrative of all known Riot of the Blood cases and who are the characters who succumbed to it, including the ones from mangas and spin-offs. And lastly, we'll try to imagine the future of this enraged state in the series in terms of story and gameplay. But before that, as always, if you like this content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and click the bell icon so you can be notified with every new video posted. To better understand the nature of the Riot of the Blood, we need to take a deeper look at its origins, in other words, Orochi and his clan. As we all know, Orochi has 8 followers, also known as Hakishu, who were granted special powers that allow them to control different elements of nature. It makes sense when we remember that they are supposed to be the defenders of nature. Yep, even Yamazaki. Let that sink for a moment. 4 of the Hakishus, known as the Heavenly Kings, are stronger than the rest, and the reason behind that is the fact that they can enter an awakened state by willingly triggering the phenomenon known as the Riot of the Blood. This awakened state gives them the control over powerful elements of nature, such as wind for Genets, earth for Yashiro, lightning for Shermie, and fire for Chris. While their behavior goes through an unmistakable change, they are perfectly capable of controlling the Riot of the Blood and keeping their sanity and rational thinking. The other lesser members of the clan aren't affected by the Riot of the Blood in any way. But what happens if someone from outside the Hakishu clan acquires Orochi blood? This is when things become interesting. Humans are simply incapable of controlling Orochi blood. If they have some of it in their veins, it will always be in conflict with their human blood. This conflict grows stronger if Orochi, his followers, or even his energy is close, and eventually takes over their bodies, hence its name, the Riot of the Blood. Because they're not part of the Orochi clan, who aren't even human despite the appearances, they lost their minds. True, they become stronger and faster for sure, which is Orochi's gift after all, but they have no control over these gifts, and that's why they go berserk, attacking anybody on sight, enemies and friends alike. The Heavenly Kings can trigger this state at will, either in their own bodies as stated earlier, or in anyone who has Orochi blood, and it happened multiple times throughout the series. Of course, Orochi is capable of that as well. The first known Riot of the Blood case occurred 600 years ago, depicted in the KOF XIV manga. Its victim was Iori's ancestor, Magai Yasakani, who made a deal with Orochi to gain more power in order to break free from the shadow of his older brother and become the worthy Yasakani heir that his clan was expecting him to be. It was a terrible decision from Magai, because not only he became vulnerable to the Riot of the Blood curse, he also doomed all his descendants to additional curses, materialized into all members of the clan dying at a young age and all female Yasakanis dying at childbirth. Not a great deal if you ask me. Magai went wild during his fight against Shingo and Kyo's ancestor, when Genets, disguised as a Yasakani member, triggered the state in Magai. Magai wasn't the only victim of the Riot of the Blood at that time. His baby son also went berserk and attacked Shingo, which was kinda funny, I'm not gonna lie. Just look at this adorable little demon, it reminds me of Chucky for some reason. Fast forward to a modern time, with Kid Leona, who is the next star of the Riot of the Blood case. Leona is the daughter of Gaidel, one of the Hakishus, and a human woman. That makes Leona a half Orochi, and that is the cause of her tragic life. The lesser Hakishu members aren't as faithful to Orochi as the Heavenly Kings, and Gaidel is no different. He decided to turn his back to the Orochi clan and their objective to revive Orochi, choosing to live a peaceful and quiet life. Genet didn't take Guide's betrayal very well and punished him by triggering the Riot of the Blood in Leona. The young girl lost control of herself and eliminated her parents, in addition of the entire village where she lived. Fortunately for her, she lost all memories of this event when she was found later by Haydn. However, at the end of 97, she remembered everything again. To no one's surprise, Leona was devastated by those memories, to the point that she tried to finish her own life, and she would have succeeded if Ralph didn't intervene and stop her. Next case is Iori at the end of KOF 95. It's true that he didn't completely succumb to the Riot of the Blood until 96, but hints of him suffering from this condition were already displayed in 95, when Rogala was destroyed after being overwhelmed by the Orochi power. Iori was affected by the energy, leading him to attacking and injuring his two teammates, Billy and Eiji. That incident earned him the enmity of these two characters to this day. They never forgot about it. Iori is very good at making enemies, and he continues with this habit in the following year with his two partners Vice and Mature. After he defeated Genet with Kyo and Chizuru at the climax of 96, the leader of the Hakishu asked the assistance of Vice and Mature, but the two women betrayed him, choosing to side with Iori and admitting that they never liked Genet. So to come back at them, he triggered the Riot of the Blood in Iori just before he died. In the blink of an eye, Iori jumped on his two teammates and ripped their bodies to shreds. Their ghosts still haunt him to this day. There is another unknown character who is susceptible to the Riot of the Blood. Her name is Aoi Kusanagi, and she is Kyo's cousin, who made an appearance in the visual novel The King of Fighters Kyo. Aoi is somewhat of an immature tomboy who fought one day with her brother. She left home and ran into Shermie. Although Aoi recognized Shermie as one of the Hakishus, she still asked Shermie to grant her the power of Orochi. Shermie was more than happy to oblige, inflicting Aoi with Orochi's curse and turning her crimson flames into purple ones, just like with Iori. Aoi ended up reconciling with her brother, but she remains stuck with Orochi's curse, hinting that she is very vulnerable to the Riot of the Blood stage. It's not known how canon these events are, but I still think that Aoi is a pretty cool concept of a character. I don't know why she didn't make it to the main series as a playable character yet. If you ask me, a Kusanagi who can go berserk is a much better character than the multiple Kyo clones we got so far. It's in KOF 97 that the Riot of the Blood was presented in the series through gameplay and not just story. At the end of the tournament, Iori and Leona succumbed to the state due to the growing presence of Orochi. Iori attacked Kyo's team, while Ralph and Clark had to deal with Leona. Seeing Iori and Leona turning into their wild versions for the first time was indeed a highlight moment in the entire series. There was another Riot of the Blood case in 97, and it happened during the last confrontation between Orochi and the Sacred Treasures team. Orochi triggered the state in Iori, hoping that he would turn against his two comrades. But against all odds, Iori managed to control his rage and attacked Orochi instead, who was not expecting this turn of events. Iori succeeding in using the Riot of the Blood against Orochi itself is probably the main factor that allowed them to defeat the strongest being in the saga. Jumping all the way to the Tales of Ash arc, Leona had to deal with yet another crisis of the Riot of the Blood. When those of the past broke the seal of Orochi, its presence was felt by Leona, who immediately fell under its influence. Thankfully, her two superior officers were right beside her when it happened and managed to neutralize her, but not without taking heavy damage in the process. Seriously, these two don't get enough credit. Having to subdue Leona each time she goes wild without hurting her is no small feat. In the next game, it was Iori's turn to go through another phase of the curse stage. At the end of the competition, Iori attacked his two teammates and severely injured them. While it was not shown, it was probably a surprise attack, which would explain why Kyo was already knocked out and Shingo suffering from severe injuries that he just recovered from recently. Things could have ended very badly if Ash didn't intervene and save them. His main objective was actually stealing the Yasakani treasure from Iori, but nonetheless, his actions had positive outcomes too. Also, Iori was freed from the Orochi curse for the first time. Orochi had no control over him as long as he wasn't in possession of the Asakani jewel. But at the climax of KOF XIII, Iori chose to reclaim his treasure back to regain his purple flames, and with it he became once again vulnerable to the Riot of the Blood. There wasn't any noticeable case in KOF XIV, that is if we exclude the manga, which did have two of them actually. Both of them concern our two main stars, Iori and Leona. During his match against KOF, Iori willingly switched to his enraged state to defeat his sworn rival, while Leona demonstrated that she can control her wild version and didn't lose control. There is no doubt that the two characters had come a long way, and they became more and more accustomed to their curse. This becomes apparent even in the main games 14 and 15. During their climax supers, they both seem to activate the Riot of the Blood momentarily to deal more damage to their opponents. They may not have total control over it yet, but it's probably just a matter of time. KOF 97 was the only canon game where the Riot of the Blood was fully displayed in terms of gameplay. Orochi Iori and Orochi Leona were separate characters from their regular versions, even though we couldn't pick both versions in the same team. It's true that in terms of move list, there isn't any change from one stage to another. The boost in speed and damage, in addition to the unique stance for each one of them, was a great deal, making them OP characters in that game. They were so cheap that back in the days, the arcades in my neighborhood forbade us from using them. While the Aurea and Leona made a comeback in the Ultimate version of 98, and that was their last appearance, not counting the multiple cameos to their stage during supers, climaxes and cutscenes. I still think that the Riot of the Blood should be part of the gameplay again. Maybe not as cheap as it was in 97, but balanced enough to be intimidating and tournament friendly. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is to treat it as a different stance, or even as an alternative climax super. In fact, the series already did something similar with Leona in 2002, where she has to use one of her stock meters and sacrifice half of her remaining life bar to activate the Riot of the Blood, and the stage doesn't carry over to the next round. Another idea that could be used is when the character activates the stage, they gain the boost in speed and damage of course, but also they start losing health slowly and gradually, kinda like Kaede in The Last Blade. I think that would be a good way to give Iori and Leona some character growth, at least in terms of gameplay, especially that they showed that they can control the Riot of the Blood currently, to some extent. That being said, I also can't ignore that the uncontrollable nature of the Riot of the Blood is what made it so iconic and memorable in the past. That's why I truly believe that a new character who is susceptible to the stage should join the roster. The aforementioned Aoi Kusanagi is the best candidate of course, also why not someone relative to Iori? We don't know much about the Yagami clan in the present beside Iori. Introducing a distant cousin of Iori, for example, not only will address that issue, it will also help improving Iori's character himself beyond his rivalry with Kyo. Just one thing, please don't make that cousin look like Shunei. Please. Special thanks to my patrons for their support. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and why not consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.